Hello friends, this is Tisha from Meadows and Mortar by Tisha, and today we are going to do this beautiful vanity makeover. So as you can see, this started off in really rough shape. There are burn marks on the top of it. We have a busted piece of glass out of it from the mirror. We have stuck drawers. They're just stains and nicks and just nastiness. So the first thing that I want to do is I'm going to take some green easy stripper and I'm going to put it all over the top of this because my goal was to do a wooden top, just a stained top. Now I knew in the back of my mind that some of those stains and burns were so bad that I may not be able to keep it, but I wanted to try it. So I put it on there in a pretty thick glob over the top of it. I try to evenly spread it out, and then I cover it with saran wrap. You don't have to cover it with the saran wrap, but this is just going to keep it from drying out really quickly. I live in the South and it's super hot right now, so I put that on there. I let it set for about 2 hours or so, but you can keep it on there up to 12 if you want. And then I just take and I scrape off that top finish. Now I knew that because this was so old and it was in such crappy shape that the finish, the actual varnish, was going to come off easily. It was just going to be those deeper areas that I was going to have a problem with, but this surface part, I was able to just get that varnish right off of there. Just make sure that once that you get all of your stripper off of there, that you come back in with some soap and water and you just do a really good thorough clean of the top of it, and then come back and then rinse it with just plain water. So this is just going to neutralize it all, get all of that gunk off of there. You can also use an after wash on it, and I do that sometimes as well, and that also just neutralizes it and gets all that junk off of there. So right here for this bottom drawer, I wanted to fill in those gaps where the actual design was, so I used some Bondo on that, and I just loosely filled it in. I did not do a perfect fill in of it because this is going to be a more rustic piece. I just wanted the designs to not be so stark because I knew that I was going to be adding some other embellishments. After that, I come in with Paint Couture's 2-in-1 primer, and I'm using it in the shade gray, and I just do 2 coats over that. And then I come in with this custom mix of aquamarine and autumn sage from Paint Couture paint, and this is what's going to be my main color. So I'm using their chalk style line, so this is going to be able to blend very nicely. So I'm taking this and I'm going to put it over pretty much the whole piece, and then I'll come in with another shade here in just a second, and then I'll blend those together. And this isn't going to give me a big color variation, it's just going to give me a little more interest to the piece. It's something that if you didn't know that it was there, you wouldn't see it, but it's one of those things that just really makes your pieces seem a little more professional instead of just using one flat color. Now, if you're having a hard time getting this paint to move, then you can use a mister bottle full of tap water, and you can just spray it on there because this chalk paint is a water-based paint, so the water will just help it move and glide a little bit easier. This is especially important whenever you're doing your blending because it will just help it move a little better, because sometimes with this heat and humidity, it just wants to stick to your piece and it's hard to move around. So I'm coming in with autumn sage. Now remember, I used autumn sage in part of my custom color mix, so I know that this is going to blend in together really nicely. So where these colors are so close together, it's going to be super easy to blend them together, but this is one of those things that, it really isn't necessary, but it is going to make a difference. Whether you notice it with your eyes or not, it really does make a difference in the final product. So I'm just taking this and I'm feathering it up into that other paint. And remember, I added this autumn sage while the other paint is still wet. So I'm not just laying this on top of the other paint, I am moving it and blending them in together. You want to make sure whenever you're doing blending that you are using a light hand. So you want to hold that paintbrush kind of loosey-goosey and don't put a lot of pressure on it, because if you do, then that's whenever you're going to get big swirl marks in it. That's whenever you're going to get big defined lines in it, and you're not going to get your paint to move together well. So that's one of those things. It's one of the hardest things to teach unless you're right in front of somebody and you can feel their wrist control, but just be loose with it. So even after the top was stripped down, you can see that there's still quite a bit of a color variation in there where the burn marks are and the water marks are. So I'm needing to come in and sand this down. So I come in with my Surf Prep sander. I start off with an 80 grit, then I'm going to go up to 100 grit, and then I go to a 120, and then I think I went up to a 180 on this. And you just want to go over all of it. You're just going to smooth everything out. You're going to try to get those colors to be a little more the same instead of having such a tonal variation on there. And I honestly was not sure if I was going to be able to get this right. So I decided to go with a gel stain. So I'm using Men Wax gel stain in the color Coffee, which is a pretty dark color. It's not their darkest, but it's like on the darker of the medium side. And I'm just taking this and I'm putting it over the whole top, because as you can see, I was not able to get all of those spots out of there, especially the burn spots. So I just needed to do the best that I could. So the gel stain, instead of a penetrating stain, it's going to just sit on top of the surface. So it's going to give it a more even look. With this, you can apply it however you want, but then just make sure that you come back with even strokes all the way across the piece to even it all out at the very last wipe before you let it dry. And I'm using one of Paint Couture's stain applicators on that, and those work beautifully. So now I'm coming in with a furniture transfer. This one is from Redesign with Prima, but you could use any kind that you like. IOD makes beautiful ones. And the way that I like to start my transfers on pieces like this is I want to start where the detail is. So I'm starting over here on the edge where that fluting is, and I'm just working one little section at a time. So I'm doing like one little bump, and then I take my applicator tool and then I go into the other little bump, and then I just keep working my way out. And then I can come in with a razor blade, and then I can cut any edges that I need to be able to make a quick slice down there to be able to get my transfer to lay flat on the rest of the piece. But this is one of those things that you just really have to play with transfers to be able to figure out what the best technique is for you. But this is just what I have found works for me. So this particular transfer right here is very vibrant and bold. And my friend that I'm redoing this for, she wanted more of a rustic feel to it. She wanted a more farmhousey feel. So I go and I put this on here, and then you can't see it where I'm speeding this up in the video, but I come in with some sandpaper and I just take some sandpaper to kind of knock down some of that shine a little bit, to distress it just a little bit so that it goes more with the look that she was wanting. But I wish that I would have slowed it down so you could see that on there. Then I come in with some dark wax. You can use any brand that you want. I'm using Annie Sloan's Dark Wax, and I'm just coming up from the bottom and I'm just swirling it around, and then I take a paper towel and then I buff it out. And I just do this anywhere that I think that there should be a darker, dirtier look to. So with the wax, this is another one of those things that's not necessary, but it really does make all of the difference. And then I come in with that little keyhole applique that I made, and I just glue it on there. And then I decided that where I had that one broken mirror, that I was just going to take the other one out on the other side, and then I would just apply some cork board on there. So I got a roll of the cork from, where did I get that from? Hobby Lobby. And I just cut it however I wanted it, and then I glue it on there with some spray glue. And then I take some molds that I had made, some trim molds that I made out of resin, and this is from IOD. I think it's trimmings 2 or 3, I can't remember. I know it's trimming something. And then I take some glue on the back of it, and then I just glue it around the edges of where that cork board is, so it looks like this is actually made in with the piece, and it is going to look much more finished and defined as long as I have this trim covering the edges of that cork board. It's not going to look like I just threw it on there. Then I come in with that same custom color mix, and I'm just putting it right over top of that, just with a little artist brush. I'm wanting to make sure that it's all good and filled in so it's all cohesive and it looks like it was made like this. Now on the inside of the drawers, I use some wallpaper, and I just cut them to size, and then I lay them down on the inside of the drawers, cut off the excess of it, and then it looks a whole lot prettier. After that, you can see that my wood is still pretty worn and it's very thirsty looking. So I use some Wise Owl Furniture Salve, and I'm using the tobacco flower scent. This is my absolute favorite scent, and I use this furniture salve all the time on my wood pieces. This is going to give it a nice, beautiful smell. It's also going to help my drawers glide in and out better. So I use this on the outside of my drawers, but then I actually use it on the glides on the inside of my piece as well to help oil it all up and slick it all up and make it easier to come in and out. Then I take Paint Couture Extreme Guard. I think I used the matte on this, but I'm not positive. I think that's the one that I used. But you can use any sheen that you want. Extreme Guard is excellent. It is tough stuff. It lays down beautifully. It self-levels really nicely. And I just put it over top of that transfer over all of my paint, and I'm just wanting to make sure that everything is good and sealed in. Now I know that whenever people see me putting it over top of that wax, that dark wax, they're like, wax is last, and yeah, it's supposed to be, but I buff it out so much and I use so little of it that I've never had any problems with it. But if you're wanting to follow manufacturer's instructions, then absolutely do that, and you can add your wax last. So you can see whenever you're putting this over top of a dark stained finish, you're kind of like, oh crap, what the heck have I done? This is turned all milky. But I promise it dries clear and it's fine. This is just the way that it looks whenever you first put it on. So put this on there really good, then make sure that you even it all out. And then once that all of this detail around the top of it has dried, I come in with more of that dark wax, because whenever I put the dark wax on before, I didn't have the appliques done, and I'm wanting to make sure that all of those details pop on there. So it just seems very one-dimensional if you don't have a darker color down on the inset of those. Then I come in with just some crystal knobs and put those on, and it just really ties it all together. Then I come in with Paint Couture's Vintage Lace. This is their Lux Metallics line, and I'm just going over my hardware here. I'm just hitting the high points, doing some pieces on the edging, and this is just going to give it a little bit of shimmer, a little more something that's going to make you look at it and go, dang, that looks really nice. And if you're interested in trying any of the Paint Couture products that I have, I will put in the description box a link that you can use to get any of these products, and it is no extra cost to you. It just lets Paint Couture know that you used my link whenever you decided to buy the products. And if you haven't already, I just want to ask that you follow my page, that you like it, that you subscribe to it, and so that we can hang out some more in the future. But here is the finished product. Look how beautiful this turned out to be. You would never known that it has all those burn marks on it and all the water stains on it. You would never known that it's been neglected. And I'm just so thrilled with this. And guys, I can't wait to see you next time. Thanks.